Thanks for coming this afternoon. We are honored, humbled to present our story of the Sacred Stone Camp in Standing Rock Sioux. We'll do introductions really quickly. Gil, you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Utlanegar Gwali, and I'm a Cherokee language teacher here at the university as an adjunct professor. Utlanegar Gwali means my strong friend. Otherwise, people also know me as Gilliam Jackson.
My name is Juan Sanchez. I am professor in Spanish, modern languages, and I just came to this land. I'm really glad to be here and to be able to share this with you. Thank you. I come from the Andes, from South America.
So I'm Dr. Trey Adcock, assistant professor here, director of American Indian Outreach, faculty advisor for the Native Student Group. We also have, and I want to recognize some of our audience members. We have George Pappas. He's a legal scholar, has done a lot of work on the Marshall Trilogy, 19th century, 3 court cases, which laid the foundation for removal and other things. And then really excited to have Miss Lynn Harlan here. She's the EBCI tribal member. She is the current PR director for the Cherokee Hospital. And to be honest, she spent 2 weeks doing the PR for the Standing Rock community. And she just got back. So I just want to recognize audience members. They have asked me that after we finish our presentation, if you do have questions, which we absolutely invite, to step up to this mic right here. And we will do the best we can to answer the questions. And if we don't know it, I'm sure one of us could make something up, but we'll do our best. So just a couple of points before we begin. I'm going to narrate. These guys are going to jump in, hopefully informal as possible. We are not the authoritative voice on the Dakota Access Pipeline. We did have an experience. We're happy and honored to share it with you. We also recognize that this is an evolving issue. There is new stuff coming out all the time. We don't have all the answers, but like I said, we'll do the best we can. We also recognize that there are many other Native people. I don't know how many people in the audience have been there. There have definitely been Eastern Band of Cherokee Indian members that have been there, some longer than we have. So we also want to recognize their voices and their stories. But if you have been involved, please feel free to share your stories or comments. And then I think the last part of this is, we just feel compelled to come back and share this story. I think we all felt like we were supposed to be there for whatever reason, and to use whatever platform we have to share this story and to keep this story alive. And so we're honored and humbled to do that. So just basic facts. I don't know how much you know or don't know about the Dakota Access Pipeline. Just some real basic facts. It's approximately 1,100 mile pipeline proposal. It's a 30-inch pipe. I'm not an oil man. I've heard that's a pretty large size. Part of what they want to do, and you can see the route, it's coming from the Bakken area of North Dakota. It's fracked oil. And part of the issue here is they want to dig under the Missouri River, which is a site of contention, obviously. But it's going to transport 470,000 barrels a day. It has a capacity of 550,000. So just some basic facts, and that comes from the energy company itself. Here's the route in relation to the Standing Rock community. So you can see northwest North Dakota, and then down here in the middle, the very northern part of the Standing Rock community. And that's a point of contention which we can talk about. One of the arguments is it's not on reservation land. I think we could argue that. It's definitely treaty land that has been ignored and broken. So the Standing Rock Sioux consider it their land. And obviously anything under the Missouri River would affect everyone downstream as well. So just the central issues that of this movement. I think one, water is life. Obviously we need it to stay alive, but it's also an important part of ceremony. The Standing Rock Sioux and I think many other tribes view water as a sacred element. So water is life. Two, I think a major point of contention, at least while we were there, is that sacred spaces were intentionally destroyed. And in the line of the pipeline, there are many sacred sites. and we'll talk about that, but the intentional desecration of those sites is a major issue. And then third, kind of a heady term, but tribal sovereignty is under direct attack. The tribe was never consulted with properly. The Army Corps of Engineers streamlined this process and moved forward without proper consultation with the tribe. So it's a direct attack on tribal sovereignty. So I think Gil had a really great idea, which is just to organize the presentation in some basic questions. I mean, I think the first is, why the three of us? Why did we go? I'll just speak from my perspective really quickly. I'm a Cherokee Nation citizen, enrolled member of the Cherokee Nation. August, Principal Chief Baker came out in support of the Standing Rock Sioux, and then the Cherokee Nation sent an entire tractor trailer of supplies. And I also had some friends out in Oklahoma go to deliver supplies. So as a Cherokee Nation citizen, it's something my tribe supports, is involved in, and I felt compelled to join that cause. Y'all want to share any reason why you decided to go? Go ahead.
Well, I just came to this country, but we have similar stories in Latin America. And every day, you know, these situations are affecting many communities, nations, and I don't know how frequent are these episodes in the history of this nation. But for me, it was definitely there was a need to show solidarity. I think that it's a time that we need to listen. It's time that we need to listen, you know, those calls from other communities and show solidarity. That's what I felt, and I have been working for some years already with the Indigenous World Forum on Water and Peace, and I have been thinking about water and trying to work with these different communities around water. So when you hear that, you know, there is a tube that is going to cross the Missouri River, and that there are thousands of people downstream, you should do something, you know. You should say something, and that's the call. You know, what are we going to do? So that's one of the reasons. Yeah.
We definitely, our people definitely believe that water is life. We believe that water is alive, and because water is alive, it gives us life. And I've said several times already that all of us, you know, the first 9 months of our lives, we were in water, and it was healthy water. And we depended on that, and we still continue to depend on that. But my thing about this whole movement was that it felt like a calling, that I needed to be there. And I think with Trey also, Dr. Adcock, he had a calling, and we got in touch with each other about the same night. And I was really feeling compelled. I felt like I needed to be there. And we got in touch with each other, and even at that, we had to have a little discussion because it was a 25-hour drive, and that's not easy to do. And so we decided that we finally decided we were going to go, that we needed to be in support of this tribe. And my commitment to water didn't begin with this movement. I've been involved in active movements towards against the earth or for the earth ever since I was 20 years old. And at 27 years old, I was a plaintiff with the against the Tennessee Valley Authority when they were trying to dam up. They did dam up the Little Tennessee River, known as the Tellico Dam Project, and I was very active against it. So because I believe that water is life, water is alive, and we've got to have it. There's just no, there's too much pollution already, and we have got to get people aware. We have got to make people understand that there may be a little bit of an inconvenience now with this pipeline that's broken, and but I hope that you guys will begin to understand that that's just a little inconvenience. How about when water's not available? The rich people, the people who make billions of dollars with this oil pipeline, they'll always be able to afford a filtering system. Their children and grandchildren will probably be able to drink clean water. We won't. And these people won't. Our brothers at Standing Rock will not be able to.
Thanks. So yeah, we had friends. I think we all felt compelled to go, and so yeah, this was definitely like on Monday. Gil and I looked at each other and say we're going to go. We feel compelled to go, and Juan, fortunately for us, joined in on Wednesday, and we left on Thursday. So it was a quick trip, but we pulled out a call for supplies. Other people had taken supplies. And so people responded. We took supplies from the Center for Native Health, from the Jones Bowman. These are located in Cherokee. Our Native American Student Association members also sent supplies. And then we had community members from Cherokee, from the Snowbird community near Robbinsville, and people in Asheville. And so we ended up donating $350, tents, blankets, water, containers. And yeah, they were very, very grateful and thankful for the support. We also took pictures to document that we actually delivered the supplies. I think also all three of us felt solidarity with our Native American student group. We had a conversation with them, and what could they do? How could they lend their voice to this issue? And what they decided is to give us their banner to take and hang at the Standing Rock protest site. So I think it's pretty cool that they are the only Native American student group, at least when we were there, in the country that has their banner hanging in solidarity with the Standing Rock Sioux. So I think it was a really cool moment, and we brought some stuff back for them. So I think there's a lot of solidarity and conversation with our students here. We wanted to show them it's okay to have a voice and to be active with that voice. As Gil already talked about, we were compelled to go. I think we all felt, for whatever reason, we needed to be there. I think it should be also said, this is a historical moment. The number of tribes active, present, standing in solidarity now is 257. This is the largest gathering of Native American tribes since the 19th century, 140 years. Battle Little Bighorn.
I
It's a
would
historic
like
moment.
to add, not just from North America, but also from South. And specifically, I would like to mention the Sarayaku people, because the Sarayaku people have been fighting these oil companies in the Amazon for decades. And in 2012, this is important, they won in an international court this case against the Ecuadorian government, because in a similar situation they decided to start building pipelines and in their territory without consultation. So Sarayaku people were this weekend in Standing Rock, and to see that, I feel that as Trey is saying and Gil, this is a historical moment for the indigenous movement, but for all nations to remember the ancient roots of exchange in the Abya Yala, or in the Americas.
Perfect. So this was a map when we donated supplies that they asked you to sign your name to. I think it's just a cool visual. It's incomplete in that it doesn't include all the countries and all the different groups in South America that are also participating. I think it's just a good visual of how historic this movement is. So we jumped in the car. I don't know, what is that? 1,500 miles, 25 hours it took us, and we drove. Now, I do want to say, some of us drove more than others. I do want to say that.
Some of us are older and wiser.
But there did come a point where we started entering into, I like to say, sacred space. It's so amazing. It's beautiful, breathtaking. I think, I don't want to speak for them, but definitely felt as we were getting closer that we were entering sacred space. You could feel the history. You could feel the weight of the moment. And so, you can just see some of the landscape. Just absolutely gorgeous.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Beautiful. And so I think it's important to also say that we also felt there was a moment where we had to figure out how to actually get into the camp. So can one of y'all point out? So you see where it says Cannonball on the map? And there's a little creek? Yeah. It's a little bit north of that. Basically right there. And so over here, you could see Highway 26 and you could see 24. Well, we had reports that they had a barricade in the north, that they had a barricade in the south, and so 24 was blocked off. At least that's what we were under the impression of. And then we also had a text message that said, as nightfall, that the KKK was out roaming. And so the seriousness, the realness of the moment also hit us. And so, we were trying to work out strategies. We came out with some grand schemes of where we were headed and role played, but there was the realness of the moment as we were entering this sacred space as well. This is a picture of one of the barricades. This is a newer picture of the barricades. The vice chief of the Eastern Band was just there. This is one of his pictures. They're in military fatigues. But 25 hours later, we did arrive, and I think this is where we just felt like we were supposed to be there. The first person literally that we ran into was Dave Archambault, the second, who was the chairman of the Standing Rock Sioux. Was very grateful for us being there, was a great guy. The other person we met was Lawrence O'Donnell. I don't know if anybody sees the MSNBC. If you haven't, you should definitely take it out. It's a 5-minute talk basically on what this movement is. First mainstream media coverage. So these are the first two people we meet. We felt like for whatever reason we were supposed to be there. This is our first impression of the camp. So they had so many tribal flags at the original protest site, they started putting them on poles. So as you enter the camp, you're also coming in under the banners of all of these different tribal nations. It was just sort of surreal and amazing.
What they said, Trey, was that they've run out of poles, that there's so many flags, they've run out of poles and they can't put all of them up. And this is just one of the camps. There's 3 camps, as I understand it, 2 across the river and 1 on this side, and I think this may be the biggest one.
Yeah. I think when we were there, I would say about 1,500 people to 2,000 people at one point. That many people. We'll keep going. So one of the questions that we keep getting asked is what was camp like? And I'll let these guys talk. I would just say it was an amazing place. You can see the different types of domiciles people are staying in. But do y'all want to talk about what
It's
camp's
so well organized. I was just totally impressed in that they have an information booth. As soon as you get in there, you can ask anybody, where do we go, what do we do? And they said, well, you can go to the information booth. There's several medical supply tents. They check you when you go in just to make sure that you're not, no alcohol, no drugs, no weapons are allowed. It's a very peaceful movement, and I've heard many people call it a protest movement. It is not a protest movement. It's a protection movement. It's a movement to protect the water, the air, the people, and I think that's just, that's the message that I want to get across. It is not a protest. It is a protection movement, and it is a protection for all of us, really, because if we have not been hit with pipeline or fracking, it's coming. There's too much money in that. As you very well know, the eastern part of the state has already been fracked. There was a proposal or a movement to begin exploring the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and I'm not going to mention the person who submitted that. He is a representative from this area, and you can Google it and you can find out for yourself. But that's what they want to do. There's big money. Big money, as you very well know, controls our politicians. And I also want to state that, Citizens United is a major player in this movement. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that it's a prayer camp. That was one of the words that was repeated all the time when you want to talk about the camp as a community. It was a prayer camp, pacific. Nobody was created any situation of violence. Everybody was there to put together their energies to fight this situation through prayer. So, this is an image. When I was falling asleep every day, I was listening medicine songs every night, medicine songs until next day, and next day in the morning, around the fire, medicine songs, and dancing, and talking, and forgiving. So this is the atmosphere around this.
So just infrastructure-wise, as soon as you got there, donation tents, they had tents just set up for people to get any supplies they needed. They offered to build a fire for us. I mean, it's just the spirit of community is pretty amazing. That's the kitchen, 3 meals a day. Anything you need, the community steps in. And we stepped in as well to help. I think another really interesting and beautiful part of this camp is just the different tribes as they came into camp. This is the Colorado River Indians. Juan, do you want to just talk really quickly about what you saw?
There was a moment that we have a video that we are editing, and we would like to present to the community later, maybe in October. But I could talk with the runner, the sacred runner, which is a person that is chosen in the Mojave community, and so he ran from one point to the other point from one camp to the other camp, and this is part of the tradition to run for the water as a prayer too, and with the company of the medicine men and women. So this is one of the situations of many ways of manifestations of the many nations that were present there.
And it was all day long. I mean, it was all day long. Tribe after tribe coming in, presenting themselves. Really beautiful. And then you just met people that were really invested in this movement. This is Susan Ireland. She's a Standing Rock Sioux member. She erected this teepee. She actually taught us how to erect a Sioux teepee. Then she painted half of it in the type of paint where you can draw and color on. And so she invited any person, and this, just keep in mind, this is not just a camp of Native people. This is non-Natives as well, coming up and writing messages of support and solidarity. Just a really beautiful thing that kids were interacting with, adults were interacting with, just keeping in the spirit of the camp. This is one of my favorite moments, and so I'll hijack the podium for just a second to talk about this. But in the morning, we're just sitting around drinking coffee, and up out of the water comes this large group of women. And I can't emphasize enough how important women are to this movement. I mean, they founded it, they are the backbone of the camp itself, and they're also on the front lines. So just keep that in mind. But this is, as they're coming up out of the water in prayer, this is the song. So it's just moments like that over and over again. These beautiful moments of prayer, of solidarity. That's not one tribe, that's multiple tribes together, non-natives in that group, but that's the type of camp it was, just devoted to prayer and peace.
Trey, I wanted to mention that there's a council of elders that make the decisions. When I got there, I wanted to march, and I asked the people. I said, "When's the march?" And they said, "Well, we don't know if there is one." And that will be determined by the council of elders. They get together every morning, and I don't know how many times they get together during the day, but they make all the decisions as to what's going to happen, when it happens, or if it happens. And it's a very wise group of people that are making these decisions. And I want to emphasize, it's a very nonviolent demonstration.
So one of the events that happened while we were there, this actually happened, if you've heard anything about the dog bites and the mace and all that stuff on the nonviolent protesters, during that time there were also Sioux horse races. So they were doing demonstrations. This is where we were at watching this, and they're riding these horses bareback. It's pretty impressive. So just where is camp in relation to the protector sites? So again, you can see where 1806 Cannonball is. For my Eastern Band students, I tried to make the point, this would be like a pipeline being built through Whittier and underneath the Oconaluftee. If it was Asheville, I don't necessarily know, maybe building a pipeline through Woodfin and underneath the French Broad. So it's that close.
Or somewhere around Bent Creek.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I live in Madison County. I don't know Asheville that well. So here's a picture of the protector sites. And you can see this is one of the original sites where the tribal flags are flying. Just more, you can see where the demolition or where they're already digging above it. This is a newer picture. So there's so many tribes. They've not only moved the tribal flags, there are more.
And that's the bridge where they're crossing the bulldozers and excavators and all kinds of equipment. And
that path would go directly to the water. This is, I don't know which one of them it was or if it was either one of them, but somebody's standing on the bulldoze site. You can see how wide it is, how big it is. And it's for miles. Literally miles and miles and miles.
It's 150 feet wide.
This is actually the site across the street is where the dog attacks occurred. But this is one of the protector sites as well. We'll show a picture here in a little bit. Here's another image of the construction that's going on, the damage that's being done. So just really quickly, we don't want to spend too much time on this. We want to respect the tribe's wishes, which is the violence that occurred while we were there should not be the focus. But just really quickly to understand the culture of what was happening when we were there. Saturday morning, we were out walking around and helicopters were flying over and over and over again. We were watching them. It was pretty obvious they were watching us. Early afternoon, if you've seen any of the media reports, this is when dogs and mace were used against the nonviolent protectors. Right? So we had the amazing opportunity to be there, I guess, when this happened and to record these stories. So we have a lot of video footage, and we decided not to show it. This was someone who was beaten and attacked by dogs. That's not what he wanted to focus on. And so I think Juan asked them the question, why are you doing this? Why is this important to you?
This means everything to me. Everything, this land, this water, everything's sacred. I'm willing to die for my land and water. I hope it don't come to that, but this means a lot to me. It's very emotional to talk about. It's just seeing people do this to our water, to our land. It breaks my heart. The thing they don't realize is it's affecting them also. All they're worried about is the money. And just doing their jobs, but they don't see what's really going on, what really happened. And I feel something bigger. There's something bigger than all of us. There's something bigger that's taking place here. I don't know what it is, but
So we're not professional videographers. What anybody want to say what he talked about at the beginning, in case we didn't hear that?
Yeah, so I just would like to say about this conversation that so it was a really like a emotional weekend for us, but for everybody in the camp was really intense situations every day, like the conversations that we had and the situation, like the tension a little bit too. But the leaders of this of the camp are also the youth, and to see the youth commit, with nature, with the call of the ancestors, is an inspiration and is a promise. Like as he said, something is going on bigger than us, and so he kept repeating that, and also. So yeah, the same day he was bite by these guard dogs, and he was just trying to protect the others, risking himself. But beyond that, he was sure in this conversation that it's not about one, it's not about the individuals, it's about everybody. So there's no doubt, no doubt. And I guess that was part of our call. No doubt. If you want to do something, there's no doubt. You need to do it.
Yeah, if you didn't hear the beginning part of that, he said, "This means everything to me. I will die for this." That's how important it is to these people, this community. Yeah, I get emotional every time I hear him talk. All right, so after that, the intensity, oh man, it was just intense. We were fortunate that Len Harlan was there working with the tribe. She was gracious enough to invite us. We were really 3 of about 8 people that had access to the sacred sites. So part of what precipitated the dog attacks was the energy company on Friday. The tribe had submitted detailed drawings of sacred sites. I've heard the energy company, after seeing those plans, move their equipment anywhere from 25 miles to 3 miles and intentionally destroyed those sites. And so the women had gone out to say, those are sacred sites. And at that moment, the energy company and their hired mercenaries with attack dogs came over the hillside and got out of the trucks and confronted them with dogs and with mace. We were given access, graciously, like I said, with Len. We were driven on the back of trucks to the sacred site. You can see where they had bulldozed, intentionally, specifically, a direct attack, and the tribal leaders talking about what had happened. So thank you, Len. This is 8 minutes long. So just in terms of time, I don't necessarily feel like we should show it at this point. Are there any major points that we want to take away from what he talked about? This is Tim Mentz. He's the Tribal Historic and Preservation Officer. He and his family had mapped out all these sacred sites. They're the ones who created the plans and submitted them to the court.
What he said was that I'm not sure who hired the archaeologists to make sure that there was an archaeological study done where the corridor was going to go, but what he said was these folks did not have a clue as to what to look for. And because, it's not like you've got monuments, you've got marble and headstones. Their method of a burial site is way different than what we are accustomed to here in the East. And as a result, they had no idea as to what they were looking for. They had no idea. But he submitted the plan. He said, here's where it's at, here's where it's at. And the company loaded up their bulldozers and excavators, anywhere from 3 to 20 miles, loaded them up, went directly to the site, and with the sole purpose of destroying the burial site. Now it's not there.
And I've heard that's a specific strategy that have happened in other places, that if they destroy it, then there's no evidence of it. And just two things to say really quickly. The energy company hired their own environmentalists to do an environmental survey and their own archaeologists to comment on this. Obviously, in both cases, they ruled in favor of the energy company. So that is part of the issue that's happening here too. This is just some pottery shards that were on the site. We can talk about that in a little bit. I do want to play this really quickly. I think this all struck us emotionally. This is Gracie Claymore. She's a Standing Rock Sioux youth council member. She was at the sacred sites. And so I have to be honest, I walked into class and I asked my students, what does sacred mean to you? And half of them could not answer that. And so I think that is part of the challenge in this story. How do we communicate what is sacred to potentially people that don't have anything that's sacred? So I think this is a good way to convey that, what this means.
Hello, my name is Gracie Claymore. I am a Hunkpapa Lakota from the Standing Rock Nation. I'm 19 years old and I'm a college student at Sitting Bull College. First of all, I want to thank everybody and all the nations that are coming to stand with us on my homelands. It's really beautiful to see my people gathered like this again. The Ocheti Shakoi, the 7 council fires gathered like this again. It's beautiful, and there's no words that are ever going to be able to describe how beautiful it is. I am a part of the Standing Rock Youth Council. I am also a part of the Ocheti Shakoi Youth and Allies Youth Council that is, what would you call it, gathering here, and we're going to establish that soon. As far as a message from the youth that I wanted to give was that I wanted to just remind everybody to stay peaceful and prayerful. The youth understand that. The youth understand how powerful prayer is. Our youth understand that our ancestors were so powerful, and we have this opportunity to live here on our homelands. We have the opportunity to practice our ways of life because our ancestors were very strong. And why do you think they were strong? They were strong because they understood the power of prayer. And our youth today, they understand that. And I cannot be any more proud of the youth that are standing up and not being afraid to share their voices with the world, because the world is watching. They want the world to know that we are still here. They want the world to know that we are a peaceful and beautiful people. It breaks my heart to know that our lands are being desecrated like this. I apologize for crying, but it's heartbreaking to actually be on the site where my ancestors are being dug up. It's heartbreaking because generations later, my ancestors are still fighting and are still helping us. And I just want the Dakota Access Pipeline workers and the company to know that we're not going to stop fighting, we're not going to stop praying, and we're not going to give up. These are our homelands. I'm going to have to raise my children here someday, and I don't want my lands ruined. I'm going to have to raise my children here, and they're going to have to drink the water. Miniwi Choni water is life, and I just want the world to understand that. You cannot live without water. Thank you.
Yeah, pretty powerful. I know it's hard to hear it in parts, but just in that moment, I mean, it was extremely emotional and profound. Okay.
I guess one of the things that the impression or something that touched me more than anything else Tim Mintz, you saw his picture earlier. We didn't do the voice. As we were leaving after the destruction of the site, he led us in a prayer of forgiveness. And he said, excuse me, we need to forgive those people that did this. We need to forgive the people who were the operators of the dozers, and we need to forgive those people who did the security and the dogs, and we need to forgive all of them. And it was a very powerful prayer, and it just it really touched me. As Juan said, it is a very prayerful group of people.
Yeah, I would like to say that it's part of the message, or what I would like to say today, is that it is a life commitment. So this is a situation that is happening, but this is a life commitment, and that's why is vital. Is part of like our life. It's not just a political situation or economical or no. It's just as all the people that were part of this camp. You know, like it's just about life. It's just, but how can we understand that? It's a life commitment.
I think it's a good way to put it. We did not want to over-theorize this or make it, you know, this is just the story in its rawest form. Really quickly, I do want to share, too, this is the nature of the camp. When this is all happening, that day, the North Dakota governor, who is against this movement, and if I didn't mention this, the Dakota Pipeline was originally supposed to go through Bismarck. They moved it because the environmental information they got back was this is going to destroy the environment and pollute the water. So what do? They move it to the Standing Rock Reservation. So that's part of this story too. But the North Dakota governor, his son died on this day, and the camp came out and prayed for that governor and his family. It's just an amazing moment of the story, and I think it speaks to what this movement is about. So the next day as we're leaving, we head up on 24. There is a roadblock. We see some people stopped on the side of the road at where the dog attacks occurred, so we got out. And this is one of the people that we met. This was early in the morning, and this was extremely intense. But I think he's got a good message too.
You know, look at what we're doing here. This isn't about just Native people. This is about all of us, all colors of man. We all need to fight for this. Pass this on to everybody you know. I'd like to see 1 million people here. 1 million people would stop everything, and everybody has to recognize that. But we stay in prayer. Stay in prayer.
So this is the front lines. This is what it looked like. We are on one side of the road. On the other side of the road are the bulldozers. We were very quickly instructed in nonviolent action. We prayed, and then we found ourselves on the front lines in solidarity. I'm not ashamed to say I was a little scared in that moment.
I was kind of excited. Yeah.
Stop lying.
When we did the TVA thing, they had littered the road with nails and threatened us with bombs. So it was good. It was good for me.
But
some of my radicalness came out.
But this was the front lines. They were expecting the bulldozers, potentially the dogs, back the next day. This is what they saw on September 14th, police in riot gear. So they got real. So we had that moment, which was a heavy moment. We prayed and then we left. We drove 25 hours back. Once again, some of us drove more than others. But we made it back. When we did get back, great news, the Eastern Band, Cherokee Indians, offered a resolution in support of Standing Rock and $50,000, which they delivered this weekend. So the solidarity movement just keeps growing. I tried to walk into class the next day. We got back on Monday. I tried to talk about it on Tuesday and was just so overwhelmed and a little tired. I couldn't even get it out of my mouth, just broke down and cried. I didn't have the words to express what it is. So just really quickly, there's kind of been this sort of lull because of, I think, the court decisions that have been handed down really quickly that made it into mainstream media primarily because of the violence. And I think the Standing Rock Sioux were right on point with this. It's not about the violence, it's about the issues at hand, which is still water is life. Sacred spaces being violated and tribal sovereignty coming under direct attack. So just really quickly, if you are interested in getting involved, this is still ongoing. All of the court cases and decisions that have been handed down are only temporary. At any point in time, those decisions could be reversed and the digging can begin. Pipe is still being laid in certain parts of the pipeline, so this is not over. The chairman was on PBS the other day and he said this is just the beginning. So they need your help, they need your support. I mean, it's North Dakota. They're committed to staying in camp through the winter. And they're, I'm sure it's freezing. But these are some ways in which you can get involved. Sacred Stone Camp, they need supplies. They have an Amazon up-to-date list. They're always updating the supplies that they need. Standing Rock Sioux, they have a GoFundMe link on their homepage. Red Warrior Camp has supply needs too, and you can find them on Facebook. And then if you're just wanting to get into more critical issues around this, two people I would follow. One is Sarah Sunshine Manning, who was with us, and she's from Indian Country Media Today, which is a great media outlet. And then Dallas Goldtooth, he's part of the 1491s, and they'll be on campus in February. He's with the Indigenous Environmental Network, and he's a great activist. His dad was a great activist. So there are a lot of ways you can get involved. I would like to say that we are hopeful that the Asheville City Council will adopt a resolution in support of the Standing Rock and also send supplies that way. Hopefully that will happen. And so I don't know that I necessarily want to get into this. I guess I should say something, shouldn't I? But there was a protest in Asheville. And to be honest, this is a picture of us protesting the protest. Not because it didn't achieve or have some success embedded in it. I think it did. They walked down to the TD Bank, which is one of the financiers of the pipeline, drew attention to that. In Seattle, they just did the same thing. They shut down 6 TD banks. However, I think in this moment, the people on the front lines were lost. I think that the message was co-opted a bit. And so I don't think that, I guess all I'll really say about it is to stand in solidarity also means to listen and observe from the people that are most impacted by the issue. That's all I'll say about that. Okay, so Wado, Shiki, for them. Okay, we want to open up for questions? Yeah, and once again, if you don't mind, the media people asked us if you could come to the mic. Hey, Sonia.
Hey, thank you so much for going out there and being part of this and sharing the story. Along the lines of, the issue of kind of the message or the movement getting co-opted, and I know there are people from Asheville who are out there now who, are trying to offer food and stuff. And I heard this gentleman saying, we need more people out here, but, are we needed out there? I know that it's everybody's personal decision, but I also, I'm thinking about the issue of how is it that people who are out there who are not necessarily members of a native tribe, how is it that they are engaging? And you know what I mean? Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I don't know if they wanted to, Sonia, what I was meaning is that at that protest, just I'll just say it, whatever. No one in their right minds would show up, rational person, humane person, would show up to a Black Lives Matter protest in blackface. So I am unsure why people think it's okay to show up to a movement in solidarity with Native people in red face. You know, to me, it's not a time of identity politics, it's a time of solidarity. And so a court case is being handed down that's going to impact these people's lives. And this is one of the poorest communities in the Western Hemisphere. And, you know, it was offensive, man. I don't know what to say. We need allies, and this is not just a Native movement, but I also think there's a time and place for that. And this was not it. And so when you have a movement in solidarity for Native people and the Native people leave the movement, that's a problem. So I don't know. And not everyone agrees with me. Let me just say that too.
Trey, I would add that in addition to being part of the movement, that you really focus on sending a letter to the President of the United States or signing petitions. And it's going to happen. And that will have as much impact as anything else. But I do think that you would be welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the problems was the miscommunication at the beginning. That the media was not covering also like the situation, and it was focusing on violence only. So for me, I think that there is always an opportunity to help being informed and informing others, and using your own gifts. Like, for example, if you work on video, or if you work on art, or if you do something specific and you feel that you can contribute, and I think that there is a need to like be clear with the message and tell the mass media and the official media that it's not true, and they don't have the right to to do that, to miscommunicate, and so there is a need for that. I would say that that's a really powerful. I believe on that art, like video, what we are doing right now here, like showing other narratives about what happened. So I will invite you and educators and people involved with art, and to do something to manifestate with respect and being informed.
I would also,
Other question? Oh, sorry. Other questions? We only have about 5 more minutes. Other questions?
My name is Aaron Tyler Cahoon Hill. I'm with the UNCA Fossil Fuel Divestment Campaign. And I wanted to ask you guys to comment on the significance and urgency of this gathering, not only in context of environmental justice, but also social justice. And if this gathering is to go ignored by U.S. policymakers, what kind of future can we expect?
That's too good of a question. Why are we
I think that
I gotta think about that.
the way I look at it, I mean, it's an issue. It's an issue on water, but it goes way beyond that. And I mentioned earlier about Citizens United. I mean, until we can pass some legislation that limits the amount of money that politicians can receive, money will always rule our politicians, and they will always rule in favor of big money. And that's, to me, the issue.
Yeah.
No. Let me kind of that is part of the issue. Let me rephrase that.
You brought up the issue of social justice. So I would just say this. There are a lot of people working behind the scenes in this movement, and I would just encourage you to also check out Dallas Goldtooth stuff in the Indigenous Environmental Network, because they are also socially justice oriented. I mean, the battle also was fought with the Keystone Pipeline, and there were a lot of lessons learned. And one of those was this is not just a Native issue, right? So social justice oriented, it includes a lot of different agendas and ideas and people. And so it's an inclusive movement. And I think that's how he would answer that question. In terms of what type of future do we envision? That's a tougher question.
Yeah, when we think about like laws and social justice, sometimes we forget what is the core of the conflict and its nature. So it's not just between people. So like our social contract in all our nations have been based on people, but we are in a moment of the history, every single nation, that we have to reframe that and start, talking between like a natural contract, where who is speaking for the water, who is protecting the water. So in that big picture, other countries have been, changing their legislation, protecting water or rivers, like Aotearoa, like the Maori people with some rivers, or like in Bolivia with the rights of the Pachamama. So we have to start rethinking our law, our legislations, our constitutions. This is the moment.
Yes, sir.
Real quickly, most times the question is, what can we do? Very simple. One is to go back and learn the history of this nation, the history of the encounter between Europeans and native people. That's the genesis of this nation. It's rooted in an idea that ownership of land, ownership of nature is irrespective to what it is the relationship of the owners of the land have with what the land is. And it's rooted in a historical doctrine that established the United States and encountered the epic encounter between the Europeans and indigenous society. So for me, what you can do is to go back and learn. If you can understand the historical roots of this encounter, it will make it very easy for you to be a true advocate, because this is not a superficial exercise. This is rooted in the very basic doctrine which established the relationship between Europeans and indigenous people. And if you don't know that, I don't think that your activism would hold any strength. And so when folk ask me what do I have to do, you need to educate yourself first. And by educating yourself, you become a much better advocate. Thank you.
George? Yeah, are there any other questions? We're almost out of time. One last question?
Would it be possible for you to post or give us a handout or something of the sites that you have named so we can share that?
Yes. Yes, I can. I'd be happy to.
You can visit the Standing Rock page.
Yeah, standingrock.org, but if you
Standing
want to
Rock
write down
Sioux.
any of our email addresses are there, please email us and we'll get the information to you. Yes?
I'm curious as to how many horses that you have at the camps and how they're being cared for and what their needs are.
I mean, I personally didn't have any horses.
Are they cared for by the Indian tribes? Are they going to keep them there for the winter? Do they need food for the horses?
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, my assumption is that the Standing Rock Sioux, I respect.
There are all kinds of needs. I mean, they need firewood, they need blankets, they need sleeping bags, they need food, they need water, they need generators. And you mentioned earlier about them, the needs being updated daily.
Okay, thank you.
Corey?
I know you're running out of time. You showed that powerful clip of the women singing, and you said something about them starting. Did you say they started this whole thing? Women did? Is that what you were?
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, sorry. Well, first of all, it was started also by kids, man. The Standing Rock youth ran to Iowa which is, I think, one of the branches for the energy company to raise awareness. They didn't get a lot of support or feedback. So they literally ran 2,000 miles from the Standing Rock Sioux to Washington, D.C. to make Obama aware. That's how it really began. And it began in April after that with 3 women in a prayer camp. That property, there was 3 of them, and they put a YouTube video out calling for other people to come. And so it's grown from that. I just, personally was struck and continue to be awed. Women are at the forefront of this movement, and I think that's a powerful message too.
I think what it was, there were three Native women
Right.
that started the movement. And it was interesting to me that President Obama was not aware of the situation until a schoolgirl, I think it was in Laos, asked him what he was going to do about it, and he admitted he did not know what was going on, but he would have his staff look into it, and almost immediately he put a halt to the construction.
Yeah, and just really to be clear about that, he was on the Standing Rock Reservation in 2014. So those people are calling on him to support them. Okay, thank you all very much. Our email address is, George, do you want to say a couple things? But thank you all for coming, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Email addresses are up there.
My name is George Pappas. I'm an attorney and also a member of the Eastern Band Bar Association. And I've spent about 8 years reviewing the Supreme Court cases that have legitimized the invasion of these lands. As the gentleman said back here, if you don't understand the historical context of how we are here today, you can't advocate going forward. I'm going to try to synthesize in 2 minutes.
2 minutes, George. No, I'm joking. Go ahead.
It's going to be tough. But basically, our claim to this land, the United States, is based on a doctrine called the Doctrine of Discovery. The Doctrine of Discovery is an international piece of law based on Christian doctrine of domination. The domination doctrine basically says if you're not Christian, this is according to Pope Alexander, the papal bulls were issued in the 1460s, used by Spain and Portugal to take over these lands. Anywhere where there weren't heathens or if there weren't Christians, the Pope said you can sanction the invasion, the enslavement, and the domination of these lands. So it's a Christian doctrine of domination which underscores the land right legitimacy of this country. As such, we are not a land separating church and state. That's what we think we are based on the Establishment Clause. It's not. The Establishment Clause does not take into the fact that the U.S. Supreme Court case in 1823, Johnson versus McIntosh, the foundational court ruling that is followed by Australia, New Zealand, Belize, Canada. This one court ruling sanctioned our claim to this land. What did Chief Justice John Marshall say? He said that the Doctrine of Discovery gave England rights to this land. The Doctrine of Discovery is a doctrine of Christian domination. Hence, we are a nation of Christian domination. The reason why Bismarck got away with pushing the pipeline down to Standing Rock is because of a racist theme that's embedded in our laws. How ancient is this racist theme? It's not ancient, it's current law. You want current law? Go to 2005. Oinada versus New York State, U.S. Supreme Court, 8-1 ruling, majority ruling. Justice Ginsburg, our liberal justice, used the Doctrine of Discovery to deny the Oneida Nation their claim to their right to self-determination. One of the themes that you saw up here, life is water, protection of sacred burial lands, and what was the third one? Tribal sovereignty. There I disagree. It should be tribal self-determination. Sovereignty is a Western legal term. Sovereignty means I own this and you own that. The Native American people don't look at treaties like that. They looked at treaties as sharing. So it should be tribal self-determination. So what's happening here is the states of North Dakota and the states of South Dakota are illegal states. These are invasion states. How do I know? Because the U.S. Supreme Court in 1980, in United States versus Sioux, in an 8-1 ruling. What did the U.S. Supreme Court say? The U.S. Supreme Court said that the United States government abrogated the 1868 Treaty of Lamari, which is the treaty governing these lands. that we violated that treaty. George Custer, of course, violated, and his troops were decimated when they discovered gold in the Black Hills. But in 1980, our court said, yep, the U.S. government violated that treaty, and what we're going to do is we're going to give you $102 million to the Lakota, to the Sioux, maybe 7 other tribes. The tribes said, no, we want our land back. We didn't sell this land. You violated the treaty. The U.S. Supreme Court said, can't do that. Congress can only handle the giving of land back. So this illegal trespassing by North Dakota, South Dakota, sanctioned by U.S. violations of treaty, is now imposing themselves on land. The invaders are arresting the owners of their land that we sanctioned with a treaty. By the way, the United States signs treaties with foreign nations. We have signed 361 treaties with Native American lands. Every single one has been violated. 2 treaties are with foreign nations. Chief Justice Marshall, again in Worcester versus Georgia, 1832. What did he say? Well, yeah, the Cherokee did sign a treaty, but because they signed that treaty and because they asked for protection, they're wards, they're dependent. And because they're dependent for our protection, they have given up their sovereignty. They never gave up their sovereignty, and that one phrase established the trust doctrine in this country. That one phrase, that one treaty, that one U.S. Supreme Court ruling in 1832 gives legal sanction to what's happening here by the U.S. government. Congress has no constitutional authority, has no plenary power under any constitutional clause to control tribal sovereignty. So it's an invasion. It's a violation of U.S. treaties that we are here. Understand that what's going on here is a violation of our laws. We are not a nation of laws. We are a nation of men. We are not a nation of truth. We continue to be a nation of lies. And until we become a nation of truth, our culture and our solidarity will always be infringed. So long as there's solidarity, like in Standing Rock and like in Wounded Knee in 1973, Native tribes prevailed. They prevailed because of social media and because of the news. But for Facebook, but for Twitter, but for social media, there would be bloodshed today. There would be bloodshed because no one would be watching, but the world is now watching. They're not going to get away with this. So this solidarity is key, and let's keep it going. Now you have the sense of the historical connection to what's going on there. And just keep in mind that we have violated treaties that control who has self-determination over this land. Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, George. George, was there a question? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. All right. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.